All right, we are live. Welcome to Overtime. I'm your host, and here's my guest, Mr. Juan. He's a Fin Fanatic contributor. He's here. We're going to talk about the Dolphins and so much more. Brett Legassi will be with us in just a few minutes. But first off, Juan, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, Bobby. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing all right. I know we talked about it a little before the show, but I'm a little depressed because of the heat. I thought it was going to be heat in 6, but I'm going on heat in 7. What do you think about that game last night?
Really disappointing, but I think Boston's barely shooting well, and they've shot badly 2 games in a row. I mean, they put up 93 points yesterday. If just one or two of our shooters can get hot, man, and just the other guys can contribute what they can contribute because we're on our last legs, I think they can pull it off and force a game 7. And after that, like all bets are off. We'll see what happens.
I agree with you. Obviously, we are the Finns talk overtime, and but we're from Miami. I'm from Miami. I was born and raised in Hialeah. So, I got to talk about the Heat. But first off, as you guys are watching Finns Talk Overtime on the Finns Talk Network. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and you could follow Juan on at 3rdnJuan, which I think was very catchy Twitter handle, man. Good catch.
No, yeah, I was like, what could I make? And I was like, I'll just play on with my name and see how that goes. And people seem to like it, and some people don't like it, but it goes with everything.
That's right. It's Steve, Evan, Chris. Oh man, thank you guys all for tuning in, and everyone else. And again, as you're going through the show, hit that like and subscribe and share the show as well. We'd appreciate it. All right. So as we're waiting for Brett, and we're going to talk a little more about things about the current Dolphins team. Steve Hialeah baby lived on 29th Street. I lived on East 10th. Steve, that's where I grew up. East 10th Street, Hialeah Elementary, Miami Springs Senior High. That was me, my man. Juan, where are you from, man?
Well, I originally was born in Colombia, but
okay.
I came here when I was 13, and I mean, I lived in Hialeah for 1 year, right off like close to 49th Street, and then I lived like right off 67th Avenue right here in like Miami Gardens area for a couple years. And then when I moved out, I decided to like move out here to like more Miami Lakes area, so like that's where I'm at now.
Nice. All right. So, I mean, okay. So this is probably obvious. So let's start off first talking about you, and then we'll get into your opinion on the current Miami Dolphins and Pro Football Talk's tweet from yesterday about the Dolphins quarterback and pending free agent quarterback Colin Kaepernick. So first off, what made you a Dolphins fan? Who was your favorite player growing up?
Well, when I moved here, I was first introduced to Miami Heat, like we were talking before. And then as I got more into football, I say like middle school. Yeah, it was like 8th grade, middle school. That's when I started getting into football. And I've always been about the local team. Like when I was in Colombia, it was the local team for soccer. So here's like I'm a rock with Miami. And I knew like as I talked to my friends about them, because I mean at that point like kids are kids, so kids are gonna pick like at that time the teams that were popular. It was the Patriots and the Giants. And I remember that was probably like one of the first football games I watched. It was that Super Bowl, and I remember they were going around the classroom. It's like, hey, who do you like? Who do you like? And then from then on, I watched the Super Bowl. It was like great. I really enjoyed the sport of football, and then from there, I started to follow the Miami Dolphins. And obviously they weren't very good, and so I started to learn more about football because at one point I started liking it as kind of like one of the sports I like. But then it became like the main sport I liked, and I became a student of the game pretty much. I started to go back, and then even though people made fun of the franchise for like the state it was in at that time, I mean we're kind of like not far from it to be honest now. But I started to go back and really reminisce on like the greatness of what this franchise was, and I'm like, you know what, like this really like can be a good setup. And once Brady left the division, I remember watching that Tennessee game. He goes out with a pick six, an interception in his own end zone. And I'm like, this is it. Like, this is the start of something new. And from then on, I'm like, I'm gonna really go into this team, because before I was following them along, but I was like casual. I wouldn't know like who's playing linebacker on defense on this Sunday, and like who's our main stop guy for the run. So I wasn't that deep into it. But after that, I'm like, something special really can come from there. And the rest is history. From then on, like I really became a big fan.
That's awesome, man. So kind of fresh. So let's see. So who was your favorite player? If you had to pick a player, like when you were like, man, this is my guy right here on the Miami Dolphins. Is it a current player now, or is it a player back then?
I would say at that time when I was watching, the player that most caught my attention, because I mean when we sucked and I'm like 14, 15 years old, I'm not watching every game. So I'm like, oh, we're going against, let's say, like the Steelers. I'm gonna watch that game. So I would sometimes like watch. I remember one play of Jay Ayahi against the Bills. Like he goes on some like crazy, like I've never seen one of our running backs do that ever since. But he goes into this like crazy pretty much the play starts off here. He goes to the side. He gets bounced off a D lineman. And then he pretty much like stops, takes a step back, resets, and literally like runs straight into the end zone. And that was against the Bills. That's one of my favorite memories. Younger, that was one of my favorite players. And then, I mean, when I really started getting like deep into the draft and like I felt like I really like kind of knew my stuff, let's say like 2-3 years ago, and like looking back, I'm like, damn, like I still had like a lot to learn. And probably like 3 years from now, I'll look back here and see that there was still a lot to learn. But from then on, going into the draft, I really like wanted to draft Tua. That was my guy. Like I believed in the hype and everything. And then from then on, I've really just been a fan of the team. Currently, my favorite player, I would say, is Xavier Howard. And just that type of mentality, and probably Tyreek Hill, now that type of dog mentality that he brings to the table, it's like 100%. Really refreshing, and it feels new. So probably like it changes every year. Like somebody each year catches my eye.
Of course. In that the Buffalo Ajayi game, was that in Miami?
That was in Buffalo.
That was in Buffalo. Okay. So I went to one in Miami with my stepfather. When I went down back home, I brought him to, it was years ago with Jay, and that's when he ran for like 200 yards, and we were down with Tannehill, and we came back and won the game. Probably one of the best games I've been at.
One against the Steelers that was absolutely insane. And yeah, like those were the times, man.
So, yeah. Those are the times we hang on to. So, was that your favorite Dolphins memory? Or rather watch it on TV or going to a game? Was it that game there?
Well, growing up, since I really couldn't afford to go into the games, like from when I was a younger Fins fan, that's like the memory I hold on to. And obviously, like the 2018 miracle, but that was more recent. But yeah, after that, I would say going to a game. I went to my first Dolphins game in person last year. And for any of my homies that I went with, like last year, it was crazy. My favorite moment out of that year, it was a tough year, but like going to those games, it was just so fun, tailgating and meeting everyone. And I remember when I first started my page, I started doing like videos interviewing like the fans and asking them questions, going around the stadium and the tailgate. But then we started losing, so I was like, people weren't into it anymore, so I had to put a pause to that. But I plan to bring it back next year. But
awesome.
To the stadium, I would say that the Panthers game where Tua hits Waddle for a stride and just goes like almost for the touchdown, and then watching Javon Holland get his first pick at home.
Oh yeah, that of course. And I think Javon Holland is going to be a big time player for this Dolphins team. I think that was a home run draft pick. Could be the next big thing that for Howard. Whatever happens to him in the future. Steve, dude, I graduated from Miami Springs Senior High in 1978. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I went to Miami Springs Senior High. I played for the Golden Hawks. I was a defensive end for about a year, so that was fun. Let's see here. So
I graduated from HML. Yeah,
they did
Miami Lakes, right around the corner.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Well, that's pretty cool, man. So all right, so. Now let's talk about the current Dolphins team, because you said now you're really into it. So now you're studying the game, you're doing your homework, you got yourself that site, you're a contributor. So right now, I know you said you were on the tank for Tua train, right? And we had drafted him 5th overall. Burrow was taken number 1. He was number 5th overall, and then the Chargers took, of course, Herbert. So now 3 years later, a lot of twists and turns. He didn't start the year his rookie season, and he was put in, and he was taken out. And then last year, all what happened now with Flores. What is your current thought process? Oh no, let's do this. What did you think of Tua before he was drafted, and what do you think of him right now?
So before he was drafted, I had really high expectations, and the way I was looking at the film then, to the way I'm looking at it now is way different. And I guess just because like those things that you go back and I'm like, how did I not see? Like, I would watch like some of these crazy plays, and obviously Tua also threw into some very tight windows, and that's why he gets the reputation for being really accurate. But there would just be like some of my favorite plays. It would be like him throwing to Jalen Waddle or Jerry Jeudy like wide open in one of those Alabama games. And then I remember watching the LSU game versus Alabama and Joe Burrow and Tua going back and forth. And even though Tua played well, he had some mistakes here and there. But going into it, I thought generational talent. People wanted to unretire number 13 to give it to this kid, right? So I was full on with the high left arm of God, everything, right? And then he got drafted first year, and I didn't expect him to play. None of us expected him to play the first year. And then I think we can all reminisce back to that Rams game, and they make the announcement for that he's going to start the Rams game. Whole drama situation with Fitzy in the locker room that he was devastated. And I'm like, this kid's going to get killed. And I was genuinely fearing. I'm like, we just drafted this kid, and he's already going to be out for like the next 2 years after this Rams game. Game starts, literally he gets sack fumble the first snap, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. But we ended up doing really good that game. And I had my high hopes then. Arizona game is like when it peaked. And
yes,
from there it's been rocky. And last year I was really disappointed with Tua, but like going back, a lot of it was also that we were in a like massive losing streak. So the whole team gets down, fans get down, and going back to it, like it's changed a lot that I don't think Tua is a generational talent anymore, but I do think he can be a top 10 quarterback. And if we're looking at top 10 quarterbacks, at least in the AFC, I made my rankings, and then you have guys at borderline. There is Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan. Before I raise my expectations to what I had pre-draft, I want him to like fill that out fully, be efficient in like being one of those game managing quarterbacks. And from there, and I know a lot of people is like, oh, game manager, this and that. But I think he has to master being a game manager before we move on to the next thing.
I agree with you. I think that's his right now, and it's not really a knock. It's just what it is. To me, I think it's his ceiling right now. For me right now, because you're talking, the quarterback I compare him to, and on Monday, I finished talk today, and Evan Postner, who's in the comments there. What's up, Evan? He was actually guest hosting with me, and one thing I was talking about with him was the quarterback I've always compared Tua to, and I don't mean actual compare, but I just mean if you're going to give him a ceiling, is Chad Pennington. And by that is Pennington had a big arm in Marshall, where Randy Moss was his wide receiver until he got injured, hurt his shoulder. Then he was an accurate quarterback, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in history, and he was a game manager, probably the best game manager. So I said, right now for me, Tua's ceiling is that. So because you said that, that's why I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm with you on that. I think that is a good ceiling for him to reach right now. And then we build up to, hopefully, if he can make it there, to his potential of a 5th overall pick, which you have said could be a franchise guy, a generational type guy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Let's get to game manager first and see what we can do from there. And with McDaniel's system, like that's what I asked for. It's not going to ask him to be a superhero.
Yeah, absolutely. In McDaniel's system, if you look at the quarterbacks, especially with San Francisco, that's what Jimmy G was basically. I mean, he wasn't flashy. Everybody could say what they want about Jimmy G, but he's not a bad quarterback. He's a game manager, and he brought them almost to the Super Bowl. And that's what you kind of want with Tua, not to do too much, not to lose you games, be consistent, and protect the football. So you would say that you're pretty high on him, but now through these going into the third year, you're kind of medium expectations now. You're border on here.
Yeah, I would put him around the middle of the package. And shameless plug, I am gonna be having some quarterback tiers dropping tomorrow, so you'll see where Tua stands more with the rest of the pack. But I do think he's around like Matt Ryan Tannehill is what he's gonna be around this year.
Cool. Really? So on finfanatic.com, you'll have your quarterback tiers drop.
Yeah, it'll be dropping tomorrow. So
awesome. Check that out, guys. What's up, Jeremy? All right, so pretty cool. So they definitely go check that out. So this off season, we ended off with a bang. Okay, we win Everybody's excited. I wasn't. We missed the playoffs. To me, it was playoffs or bust. This year, it's playoffs and win or bust. But we win against the Patriots the next day or whatever. Flores is fired. I wasn't really surprised at that. I was surprised that Greer and Flores wasn't fired. That's what I was surprised about. But they fire Flores, keep Greer, hire McDaniel, and then of course they make these splashes. They got Terron Armstead. They got a pretty, if you look at the total picture before Terron Armstead, you were kind of scratching your head, going, "Is this it? Is this what you guys are going to do with the Cedric Wilson and all that?" And Connor Williams, and then they go out to get Terron Armstead. You're like, this is great. Next day, shock the world. They set the trade for Tyreek Hill. Everybody's saying this is Super Bowl, and everybody's jumping. We've won the offseason before. We signed Sue. We did Mike Wallace, Brandon Marshall back in the day with Chad Henne, and people would go crazy for this. Do you, and if you do, how is this team different from those teams, in your opinion?
Man, I do really think that the vibe was different, because if you go back to Flores, if you go back to Gase, if you go back to Philbin, I never heard about the players say, this is such a refreshing environment, or say, like, I really dig the coach, or see like the creative ways that the coach is getting involved with practice and putting a staff together that is really respectable on paper. We'll see how like it turns out on Sundays, obviously. But with that, I feel like the Dolphins are also getting away from trying to copy the Patriots, because for so many years, it seems like the Dolphins just saw what was winning the Patriots Super Bowls, and it's like, let's try to do that. And looking back, it's like we wasted so many years, because the whole time it wasn't the Patriots, it was Brady. It was Brady this whole time.
I agree with that.
And now you can see, like, now they completely shifted west. Like they got McDaniel. They also went and got some players from there. They got some coaches from there. They got Wes Welker as one of the wide receiver coaches. And I really like the way McDaniel goes about things, just because he's unorthodox. And some people are sketched out about it. And I know some people are saying, hey, he has not called plays before, which he did. He did at San Francisco. It's just that Kyle Shanahan sometimes is a bit of, that cryptic messaging. But he did say in an interview, hey, McDaniel's the one calling the plays. So he has experience calling the plays, and he has experience getting players to buy into him. And I see it about all the greats right now, the young greats, which is McVay, and you can add Shanahan in there, and you can add LaFleur in there for the Packers. We'll see how they do this year. But they talk about them in such a positive light. McDaniel's getting put in the same positive light. I just think it's a different vibe, and I have never, you said we went big before, but I've never seen them go superstar left tackle, superstar wide receiver. Tyreek Hill, arguably, on any Sunday, can go out there and be the best wide receiver in the NFL. Any Sunday. So I've never seen a team like this. I think it's loaded. It's the best Dolphins team I've seen in my lifetime. I'm used to these guys just, building to like kind of like get to the playoffs or miss the playoffs, then get smashed. Shout out to the Steelers about 4 or 5 years ago. But and yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it. I want to give a huge shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars. If it weren't for Christian Kirk getting a deal north of $20 million, Tyreek Hill would have never gotten pissed with the Chiefs, and Devontae Adams would have never gotten pissed with the Packers.
That screwed up the whole freaking market, man. When I saw that deal, I'm like, that is ridiculous.
And I was so pissed because I wanted Amari Cooper, and I'm like, you guys,
I was Amari Cooper, yeah,
just messed up the whole thing. Like, you ruined the wide receiver. Now we can't get a wide receiver. What are we gonna do? And they go out and trade for Tyreek Hill. And I'm like, God damn it! Like, he's really doing it. And I know I shamed Greer before. I talked a lot of crap about him. But with McDaniel there, it's like he can execute McDaniel's vision just how he wants it. We're seeing it. Bobby, it took 3 months for this team to go from shambles on offense to, on paper, being one of the best offenses in the NFL. On paper.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of expectations, which the Dolphins are the Dolphins. So we'll see.
Yeah. That's right. And I just want to say, because I think you hit the nail on the head, and I want to talk about that Flores Patriots thing too, because you're absolutely right. But Jeremy Clump, man, if you guys don't follow him, you should. It's worth a follow. It's a fun follow. He loves to stir the pot, but I enjoy it. I get a good laugh out of there. But he makes a good point, and I did see it a little earlier, but now I'm gonna read it. But he said that if I remember the earlier message here, that Tua is comp to Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford is a good comp for Tua right now. Talented, bad teams, coaches, injury history, college hype. I think that's actually a very good comp right now. I don't think that's an unfair. I think it's pretty true. He had so much hype coming out, but and obviously, yeah, you could point every finger to every offensive line coach, whatever, but he hasn't lived up to it yet. But I think you're absolutely right. First off, for me, the roster is exciting. What's the difference between this roster or this offseason that gets you all hyped for this season compared to those past seasons is the coaching staff, in my opinion. And I wasn't a McDaniel guy. Again, I've always preferenced that. When Flores got fired, I was like, great, go after a veteran head coach, someone who's done it before. I don't care how bad he was. Get someone who learns from his mistakes, because if you go back to our last veteran head coach, who was a coach before, was Dave Wannstedt. And Wannstedt, after Wannstedt was fired, it was you go down that list. I'm gonna be. Let's see here. You had Saban, Cameron, Philbin, Gase, Flores, and I'm sure I'm missing one in between. But anyway, all of them, and Sperano, and with God rest his soul, and the thing between Gase and Sperano, that they brought the team to the playoffs one year, but they lost the same game. You brought the Steelers. For me, I was like, no, I'm done with that. The one thing I like about Flores was that, of course, he couldn't put a staff together. Offensive staff was terrible every year, losing a guy. 3 offensive coordinators, basically 3 play callers last year. Was that what I don't like? The same thing with Gase is you haven't done a damn thing. You were talking about the Patriots, Ray. They were trying to be like the Patriots. Well, if you follow history with every coach that's left the Patriots organization, what have they done? Nothing. Yeah, they haven't been successful anywhere. You bring in Flores, who I actually wanted during that last coaching search. I was looking at Chris Richard from the Cowboys. That's the guy I was looking at. I was like, I like his fire. I think he'd be good. But it was when we hired Flores, I was like, okay, cool. And he came off well and everything else. One thing I didn't like is the same, and now, especially now afterwards when you learn, it's the same thing with Gase. You act like you're smarter than everybody else. You're not answering questions. You're standoffish. You're playing that Nick Saban Belichick type thing when really you have no reason to be that way. You haven't done a damn thing. And the one thing I love about McDaniel right now, after he was hired, first off, my concern was he wasn't a rookie coach. I didn't know what type of staff he's going to put together. Younger guy. Of course, then I do my research, because I like to do research before just spewing stuff out. But, you see how many years he's been around in the league. You see how the coaches and players, his peers, talk about him. So they're saying, okay, I could get with this. Then he gets hired, and I'm actually very impressed with the staff he's put together. Frank Smith, OC, Applebaum from Boston College is probably the only one that I like him, but it's the only kind of question mark just because he's never done it in the pro. Embry, Wes Welker, Darren Bevel for Tua, and just the way he treats Tua in a way. Not saying that he's not committed, but just saying that the way he said, hey man, my job is get the best out of you. And whether you're a Dolphins fan and whether you like Tua or not as your franchise quarterback, it's great to hear your head coach be committed to your quarterback, because guess what? Miami hasn't had that. Philbin and Gase with Tannehill, and then you got Flores with Tua. It doesn't seem like our head coaches were ever on board with our quarterbacks. Now it's kind of different. So I think I'm more excited about this coaching staff than I am about the roster. So let's talk a little bit about what was your preference for a head coach when Flores was let go, and what are you thinking of McDaniel and his staff right now?
All right. So first off, like you said, you weren't surprised when Flores was fired. For me, that hit me like in the chest. I was like, if you followed me for a while, you know that like I really liked the way, even though like he wasn't perfect and obviously offense really had its faults, and I can see it now more than before because we're in season and I believed in him. I was really sold on the defense, and I was sold on the fact that it's like he's so good at the defensive part. He gets the offense through, but if he can just get that one offensive coordinator right, like that's all. It's just you just need to bat it one side of the house, and that's all we need, and we're good. But yeah, when he was fired, I was devastated, dude. I thought the Dolphins were making a huge mistake, and for like a week or two, I didn't write much about it because I knew like a lot of it was emotional. So I was just on Twitter, and I was like, "This team is doomed. Like this is why they've never won a playoff game in 22 plus years. Like when I didn't have a conscience when the Dolphins won a playoff. Like in 2000, I was like 1, 2 years old. So so I'm like these people, and then after like that passed, I'm like, okay, let's look at. It was like I remember it was around the 24th, 25th of January, and started looking around, and I remember a lot of people wanted Dable because he worked with Tua before, and then they were like the Dable and Tua connection, this and that, and I'm like, no, I want McDaniel. And then if some of you guys like follow me for a while, you're in here, like you can see, and I got murdered for it. And everybody that like started like saying, "Hey, McDaniel," and at first it was like kind of joking and kind of not because I'm like, this guy looks like a crypto bro. Like this is the guy that you know. So yeah, after he looked like the IT guy, and I started digging a little bit more into what he does. I started pushing more for him, and I would find like clips and I'll post them on Twitter. I'm like, it's really cool what this guy does. And one thing I noticed about him is that a lot of players were talking about him. And I'm like, man, like players really like this guy. Coaches really like this guy. Shanahan really vouches for this guy. So when he got hired by the Dolphins, I was already excited because I've been on board for like 3 weeks now. And I'm like, holy crap, like this guy's the next big thing. Like we have to get this guy. It was McVay. It was LaFleur. It was McVay, LaFleur. Who was the other one? Shanahan. And then it's McDaniel. And I'm like, those are the four. They were at Washington together. And I'm like, those four. They're the chosen ones. They're meant to be great. And I really like his schemes. And then the next thing that sold me completely, and I was like, I can put my full trust into this guy, and I can go all in without like fear. Obviously, like if he fails, like all these tweets and all these articles are gonna look horrible. But I really like, based off my research, based off what I know, what the guy can bring to the table, I feel good about it. And what pretty much hammered that home was when he left San Francisco, you could see the players were devastated. Like players were making whole Instagram posts. You could see Debo still wanted to chill with McDaniel after. He was really one of the guys, and I've never seen that out of a coach before. And if the players are buying into him, if the coaches are buying into him, and if the report is true that a coordinator from the NFC West called Shanahan after, called a reporter after and said that they were glad McDaniel was out of the division. So all that, it just pretty much gave me a seal of confidence. And we all know it can go wrong, but I think this is the closest thing we've been to having someone who can be here for a while. I really think McDaniel's the guy long term.
I think it's a culture setter, and that's one thing. Again, like I said, and it's the same thing. I mean, I always tell people full disclosure, just so way everybody knows. The same thing with the Tua conversation. I support Tua because he is our quarterback. But when the draft, it was Herbert. That's who I wanted before he was drafted. I didn't trust Tua's injury history. I didn't know how he would transition to the pros, and still wait and see. Support him because he's our quarterback. But the same thing with this hire. See, you brought up the IT guy thing. The first thing I ever got notice of Mike McDaniel was when it popped up on Twitter when the Floors got fired. I ironically said, okay, let me go after my list. Of course, you got to talk about Harbaugh, right? Because his name's always brought up. You think Doug Peterson, Leslie Frazier. I'm going, okay, veteran head coaches. I was not interested in what's his name? I'm losing his name now. We got hired by the Giants from the Buffalo. You brought him up. But he's
Brian Dable.
Brian Dable, thank you. But yeah, I wasn't interested in him. What has he done throughout the years until he got Josh Allen, and just so you don't hire a coach for one player, you hire a coach for a team. And I guess you could make that argument for McDaniel, but really McDaniel, and especially now, post hire, has shown that he is. And you think of players, coaches, that could go wrong sometimes, but it's not like that for me. It's these guys, he's like one of the boys, and he's always with them, and you see the big smiles on their faces, and you hear, and like you said, when he left San Francisco, from Debo to George Kittle, so forth, even other coaches, Robert Saleh up in the Jets, all these guys, but the players over there in San Francisco were not happy with it. They were depressed about it and upset about it. which tells you a lot about that coach. And you watch pre-Mike McDaniel with those players, post-Mike McDaniel with those players, and you see two different type of players. That's why, like, for me, people talk about Debo to Miami and all this whatnot. Well, is it the Debo who plays two different positions, the running back and receiver? Because then his value is really high. That's a Mike McDaniel type player. Or does he say, I just want to be receiver? Then, and he's like a Shanahan guy, he's just to be down here. Mike McDaniel, I think, makes a difference in players. Does that mean Tua is going to be a Pro Bowler? I don't know, but I think you could get the best version of Tua and the players on this roster because McDaniel is there and the staff he's put together. What I love to hear from his staff, if you listen to all their press conferences or interviews, you usually hear the term teacher, and it's not about, they need to adapt to our playbook. This is our playbook, but we mold it around the player. And, and the best thing for him, and like you were saying, this coach could be for a long time. Again, I was kind of like, I didn't like that they kept Greer and kept McDaniel. But, of course, these two could be married for the next 3 or 4 years, and it could work out just fine. My only thing, the reason why I didn't like that is because you always fire the head coach and you keep the GM. Then you fire the GM and you keep the head coach, and it's a revolving freaking door. And to me, it was like you just, start it from fresh. But it is what it is. But I love to see the way they've interacted with together. I like the way that McDaniel compliments the general manager and vice versa. And the one thing is, you say for a long time, I actually think you're right. I know a lot of people say, man, what if Tua ends up being the bust and not doing whatever, McDaniel gets fired for it? No, because again, Miami's in a win-win situation here. If Tua which he could, there's no reason why he's not. You got Tyreek, Jalen, Cedric Wilson, Mike Gesicki, offensive line is better. There's still question marks in center and right tackle. Running game, Mike McDaniel should be better. There's no reason why he can't. But if he doesn't, you got 2 first-round picks next season. You could go and draft a quarterback, or you go trade for a guy. I think Brett Legassi's here, so let's go ahead and pop him in. I'm sure he's waving somewhere. We're going to pop him in. And there he is, Mr. Legassi.
You absolutely draft or trade for a quarterback next year if he fails. What's up, guys?
What's up, Brett? How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to Juan. Sorry I'm late. I'm working a lot of extra stuff going on, so.
You're good, bro.
We're having a good conversation. We're talking about Mike McDaniel and why we think this roster, this offseason is different from past off seasons where we quote unquote won the offseason. And I think the same could be said for him as we're saying it's the coaching staff. I think that's the difference here. What are you thinking about it?
I think the coaching staff is realistic and honest. If you pay attention to their press conferences, they're very honest and they kind of tip their hand a little bit, but they're not blunt. They're not babying anybody, but at the same time, they're not like, they have a good happy medium. Like they understand, hey, look, we got to develop this group of guys. We put our best foot forward and we have to do our job. But at the same time, the players have to do their job. So I feel like they understand that we have to evaluate this roster and our window to win with Tyreek and Armstead and all that is like right now. So they understand that window it doesn't get any bigger. So I think they have a good idea what they need to do and what they want to do. McDaniel might not have been a head coach before, but he carries himself like a veteran head coach. So I like that. I'm not, again, I'll believe it when I see it at this point because I believed in Adam Gase and we saw how that went. I was wrong there. I was definitely wrong. I believed in Adam Gase. Like, we got a guy. We got our guy. Yeah,
that was more of a robot, though. I feel like McDaniel, his personality is what really brings it together. Yeah. And even when Gase first got hired and he first started out with the Dolphins, I never saw him just like kicking it with the guys and like telling the quarterback, like, hey, why are you not inviting me to the house when you're inviting the rest of your teammates? So those type of things, I don't know. McDaniel's different, and I think there's just as good of a chance of this year going sideways as there is for this year to like completely take off. I don't think we stay much of the same. It's going to be in like an extreme change next year, I feel like.
I think it's going to be a big shift from what we've been seeing. I feel like under Flores, it seemed like a lot of pass heavy, got away from the run game, a lot of panicking on offense. As soon as you get down, instead of like methodically moving downfield and all, just got away from it. I feel like McDaniel's offense, they're going to see a lot more ball control. I think we're going to see more like the Sperano style of play from these guys in that sense.
Let me go. I got G Nicky here, and I appreciate you tuning in, G Nicky. When I played varsity basketball, I hated my head coach, but when I went to play in college, he became an assistant there, and I loved him. He was more down to earth. Are you scared McDaniel can't stay dorky? Like if McDaniel goes 1-3 in the first 4 games with the tough schedule, isn't the dorkiness going to be annoying and mad about that he's not more serious? Brett, I'll let you respond to that first.
You know what? No, because these players know that they smell blood and water, so they know if you're not being genuine. They'll know for sure. So they'll know if you're full of shit or not. So like I think McDaniel just staying true to who he is, as long as he's adapting and figured out if they start 1-3 and he's kind of telling them, hey, we're gonna stay the course, don't quit on it, and we're gonna keep like doing what we're doing, but we're gonna make a few changes and adjust. Not completely overhaul, but we're going to make some adjustments, and the players start seeing the adjustments and know what's happening is going to change, then no, he'll be just fine. But if the dorkiness and the quirkiness is like, it can wear thin as if losing happens. But if he's genuine and just all around, like still all about teaching the players and getting them better, that's all it's going to matter at the end of the day, regardless of record.
I think it's a great question.
Really
I would just say, with the many years he's been in the league, I mean, I think almost 19 or something like that. You know, I think players know where he comes from, and I think he's learned from Shanahan, you know, where to keep the balance of being a head coach and one of the boys. Juan, do you have a response to that question?
Yeah, I pretty much feel like, well, to be honest, I wouldn't say don't be surprised if we start off badly, and McDaniel's really aware of the room because he talked to Pat McAfee. I think it was like a month or two ago, and he pretty much said, it's like, I know the first loss, as soon as things go south, it's gonna be like, hey, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's never been in the NFL. That's why he's never been a head coach. Why did we give this guy the job? So he's aware of that, and he commented on it. So from there, he said it's like, from there, it's just put your head down and work. And I got these guys starting at 1-4 before things really get going, just because I feel like those first 5 games are brutal. You're going Patriots, then you're going to Baltimore to play the Ravens. You come back here to play the Bills. Then you go to Cincinnati to play Joe Burrow and the Bengals. So it's a really, really brutal schedule. 1-3. And then I think we come back we go to MetLife to play the Jets. So yeah, 1-3 before things really get going, and we'll see how he holds it together. I just don't want to see fans losing their mind if we start 1-3 and look at the way the schedule set up. So I feel like this team starts catching fire mid to late season, and that's where they get their groove. And that's how you want it to be, honestly. You don't want it to be the team that gets hot in September and falls apart in December.
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, Juan, because I think when we did the schedule show, I think I had them going 1-4 as well. I can't remember. But it's a tough schedule. And then of course, we got the Jets and a home game at MetLife. You know, it's pretty much a home game. So it was a MetLife takeover. So, you know, we'll probably win that game, right? But the Dolphins in 2008 started 1-2, and they weren't looking great. What was it, 1-2 or 0-2? I can't remember. It's been so long ago. But they didn't start out great, right? And then they go on, start at 0-2. And it was struggling. That's when they broke out the Wildcat and went off. And I feel like something like that could happen. I think they're going to go like 1-3, and I think, you know, they're maybe 2-4, but then I think they're going to hit the ground running. And I think that what's going to happen is they're going to figure it out, and everything's going to gel and come together.
I want to say something because Steve just wrote here, if we go 1-3, Bridgewater takes over. I think that's a great point to kind of state out. And the reason why I say that is because if the Dolphins do, and it's a struggle, if the team is struggling, and I don't know if the eye is going to be on McDaniel, I think the eye then turns back to the quarterback, because when you got players like Tyreek and Terran Armstead and Cedric Wilson, Jalen Waddle, all this whatnot, you're getting all this hype to start the year. And if you do start 1-4, which I think is absolutely realistic and fair, especially with how tough it's going to be, I don't know if it's Mike Daniel who's going to get, unless it's this horrible play calling, questionable play calling. I think that if it's the quarterback and he's making mistakes or not being consistent, whatever, I think Steve makes a great point, because I was going to say, I don't know if that falls on McDaniel with the dorkiness or not. I think then it goes up to, then you look back at the quarterback and going, yo, what's going on? Because at Juan's point, when we were talking a little earlier with the Patriots, it wasn't the Patriots organization. It wasn't the Patriot way. It was Tom Brady. A quarterback makes a difference. And that's why, like, to me, and not say that Tua can't be that guy, I always want to preference that. But right now, this team on paper is a quarterback away from being a legitimate contender because of
Right.
all the talent on the roster. So I think Steve, if we go 1-3, Bridgewater takes over. I think that's fair, and I think it could be a realistic scenario. Well, what are you thinking on that? How does that you think that could end up happening?
Can I jump in? I mean, I want to ask you guys, and I want to ask the people watching. I mean, a 1-3 record. You're starting off obviously New England at home. I got that as a win. They're coming off strong, but even though it's a win, we don't know how it's gonna look like. It is a new team, rookie head coach. They got everything's gonna be new. We're gonna see how they have to click. Then you're going to Baltimore to play the Ravens. The Ravens, we beat them last year, but when we beat them, that was the start of when they pretty much started going on this losing streak. But they were in first place in the AFC going into that game or a few weeks before those injuries started. Then you come back here to Hard Rock and you're playing the Bills. We played the Bills last year in the heat, week 2. Like I was there. I was there in the sun. In the sun side because I wasn't really familiar with Hard Rock at the time since last year was my first that I could afford attending the games. So yeah, I ended up in the sun side and we get beaten 35-0. And I'm there. I'm like at halftime, I was literally like falling asleep. I'm like, what is going on anymore? So yeah, I have that as a loss. Do you guys think even with the sun and this new team, Tyreek Hill, all that, do you think we can get past Buffalo?
Man, so the one way to get past Buffalo, the way Miami has right now, they can't shoot it out with Buffalo. They're not going to be able to. The only way to do it, and this formula could work the same way the 49ers were able to beat and sweep the Rams, is by keeping the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. And the same way they beat the Packers, because the 49ers know how to beat the Packers, and that's run the football, keep Rodgers on the sideline, play tough defense. And the only way they can do that is by doing that, by running the ball, going on long drives, and finishing drives. They're going to have to finish them. But that's the only way they can do it. I think the games might be a little bit more competitive because they can run the ball, but I don't know that they're going to be able to shoot it out with Buffalo right now. Maybe early in the season. But
the way I have it seeing it is like they're going to blitz the hell out of Tua, and it's like, show us you can throw.
Yeah.
You can throw, like, we'll go ahead, like, figure it out, but show us you can throw. But they're going to throw everything at him because they don't believe in him, and they don't believe in this in Miami. I mean, they did us, 6 times in a row? It's been 6. A complete wipeout.
Josh Allen has never lost to the Dolphins.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to end up looking exactly the same with the division. We could handle the Jets, even though they had a very good draft. The Patriots, it could go either way. I mean, I wasn't happy with that week 1 win last year. I wasn't happy, and then we went on that losing streak. They didn't play well. I think go bounce, but with the Buffalo, I still think the Buffalo is obviously the more superior team until proven otherwise. I think I had that both losses for us.
Yeah, I did too. I had them sweeping us, but I had the first game in my. Now, granted, the game last year in Miami, the game was actually tight. The year before, to his rookie year, Miami was actually playing Buffalo tight. Remember, they forced a couple turnovers early, and they had the ball early, and then the defense. What was it? Last year against the Bills in Miami, they're only down 14-0 all the way till like the end of the third quarter. The defense held them to 14 points pretty much the majority of the game, and the offense couldn't do anything. And then it's like, well, it's all the defense's fault. Well, the defense cannot be expected to stop a quarterback like Josh Allen for more than 3 quarters and hold them to 14 points and then not score a damn point. You're not going to
3 points at the half. We had Buffalo at Buffalo. They had 3 points at the half.
Yeah.
Like, please do something. It felt like on both sides the ball was just stuck in the middle of the field. It wasn't going anywhere. I'm like, just please, like, get me anything. Because Buffalo wasn't able, and once the defense broke, we just weren't able to hold. And they put up 26 in 1 quarter.
Now, I will say Buffalo is still susceptible against the run. They are aggressive. Leslie Frazier's defenses are always aggressive, and they do give up run points in run game. So that is a plus to Miami. But just if you're looking at the game, I don't care if you want to say the rosters are even fine, but the quarterback is the biggest difference. And Josh Allen's going to be tough to stop. Maybe you could stop him in Miami early in the season, get him hot. That wouldn't surprise me. But in Buffalo on the road, if Miami wins that game, hats off to Josh McDaniels. And if Tua has a good game that game, then I think that's a major answer to us about him. If he could have a major game in Buffalo, but I just don't see it.
Maybe
So let me ask you this, and Juan, I'll let you answer it, and Brett, you can respond. As Steve's point earlier about the whole 1-3 Bridgewater takes over thing, at what point would you say if Miami season's going the other way and it's not a playoff contending season, at one point do you say to probably save the season or just make a change? When would you be comfortable making a change at quarterback if Tua's not obviously the answer?
I would say Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thanksgiving. Okay. Because you're kind of like almost at that halfway point. And it also goes to factor, I mean, last year, the AFC, I was talking with some of my friends earlier, and they were telling me, it's like, hey, like, Tua was really competitive with the quarterback rankings last year. And I was saying, it's like, yeah, that was great. But the thing about last year is that last year was one of the craziest seasons we've seen. Like, the regular season was wild. It was upset every week. And the quarterback play was just really up and down. So you don't know if by like week 8, week 9, we were doing bad, but you don't know if maybe I don't see Buffalo struggling, but maybe the Chiefs are struggling, but the Chargers, I don't see the Chargers struggling either, but maybe the Raiders. You never know. It's like the AFC is really packed, and
the Browns are still the Browns.
And I mean, hey, if Watson's not gonna be there, Dolphins, you know what Jacoby Brissett brings to the table. It's not good. It's not
slow
good.
feet.
Yeah, so I'd say about Thanksgiving, and then from there,
Miami has the bye November 20th. So I would say, look, I mean, after the Bills, right? You're at Cincinnati, then you're at New York, you're home for Minnesota, home for Pittsburgh, and that's a game we need to keep an eye on. At Detroit, at Chicago, Cleveland. You know, there's quite a few like winnable games in that stretch after Cincinnati. You got the Jets. I mean, even Cincinnati can be a winnable game. Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, and Cleveland. So you start looking at that, and if we go so if you start out, let's say in this stretch, the first 4 games, we go 1-3. Don't panic, settle down. If they can go on a run, now if they lose to the Jets, the Vikings, Pittsburgh, you know, like then you start panicking a little bit, start saying, okay, it's time to move. But if they go into the bye and they're like on the verge of missing the playoffs, and that's 10 games in. So if they go like 4-6, yeah, you're starting to think about making a change. You know, but if they're like 5-5, 6-4, then don't panic, don't hit the panic button.
All right, so look, we're talking about the quarterback position. I noticed that some comments have come in because the title of the show is about Mr. Kaepernick. And why are we talking about Colin Kaepernick being a better option than Tua at quarterback, or why is that the question of the show? Well, because for whatever reason, ProFootballTalk.com loves to tweet about the Dolphins and kind of throw them under the bus whenever it can. And anyway, fair is fair, whatever. It's your sorry. But let's talk about the tweet that they tweeted yesterday. I believe it was yesterday when Kaepernick worked out for the Vegas Raiders. Colin Kaepernick, with time to knock off the rust and prepare, would be better than any option for the Seahawks, Panthers, and Texans currently have. He'd be better than any quarterback, sorry to Anon, than the Dolphins currently have. He'd possibly win the job in Atlanta too. So, looking
based on what?
Based on what? Exactly. Okay, so look, first off, let's do this. Let's look at Tua's numbers from last season. He had 12 games started. He was 7-5 was the record. 2,655 yards, 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions with a 67.8 completion percentage. Not bad considering, what your eyes show you on the field. When you look at the stats, if you're not paying attention to what you see on the field, those are okay numbers for a second-year quarterback.
Right.
Now let's look at the Colin Kaepernick in 2016, the last time he started. 2016, 11 games started. Last year in the NFL, he played. He was 1-10 before getting benched. He had 2,241 yards, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 59.2 completion percentage. Brett, I'm going to let you start on this. Would Colin Kaepernick be a better option right now at quarterback than Tua for Miami?
Holy hell. People are about to be really shocked when this no. Here's the deal. Look, Kaepernick hasn't played in so long. His last workout was horrendous, heel clicky, like it was. And I'm not blaming him. Usually there's someone who scripts this really well. So whoever scripted his last workout should have been fired. And I hope he did fire him. I hope he had a better workout this time because it was sloppy. It was all over the place. And like he was, I don't know, it was weird. Like he was dropping, like he was under center, but still under shotgun. It was like kind of like confusing. And like where the ball was located, he was like snapping it from the line of scrimmage, which isn't where you'd be snapping it from. So it throws off the drops and where you would throw it. It was weird. So I hope this workout was better. But look, this guy hasn't played in how long? To at least
2016.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm not saying he can't play, but at least with Tua, look, he's just got done. He's been working out, steady, been in the league, been healthy. Like he's healthy. You know, so we know he can at least read the defense for what they want to do. At least at minimum, he can dink and dunk. With Kaepernick, yeah, he can run, but I mean, he's got to be slowing down at this point. And he had an arm, but he's never been an efficient thrower at all. Like Kaepernick, the reason he didn't throw a lot of interceptions is because he didn't really test the defense too much. Like he can throw a deep ball, but like he's so inconsistent throwing the ball. Like I think we'd be better off with Tua because where Kaepernick wins with his legs, I think Tua can win with his accuracy underneath. And I think that would be a mistake to move on for Tua for Kaepernick. And as far as him being better than Drew Lock, I don't know. I don't know. It's just so much of a gap out of the league.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do that too. So, all right. So the Seahawks, that's Drew Lock and who else is their quarterback over there? What's his name? But Drew Lock,
Smith?
Thank you. Geno Smith, Drew Lock. Panthers have Sam Darnold, and then the Texans have Davis Mills.
And I mean, Davis Mills had a pretty good season last year for a rookie, for a third-round pick. You know, he had the same amount of numbers as Tua, who was a fifth overall pick, right? So, I mean, let's leave Davis Mills alone. I mean, come on, PFN, come on.
Before I respond, what are you thinking, Juan? Would you take Kaepernick right now over Tua?
Well, no, I wouldn't. I would not take Kaepernick. I think that
he said, "Well," I was like, "Oh, here we go." He's like, "No,
because
okay."
Before I wanted to address this first, but I just wanted to clear that out. That obviously Tua's going to be better. Obviously, Mike Flores isn't watching a lot of Texans football, and I wasn't either. But like, you don't have to watch a lot of Texans football to see that Davis Mills is nice, man. Like Brett was saying, like for a third round pick, this guy has something. He's probably not gonna be Deshaun Watson, but
no.
for an organization that I thought was gonna be in the tank, for in quarterback purgatory for the next 10 to 20 years, I think they have a guy, if not a placeholder, like someone who could really be a game manager for the next few years. Like he's really able.
Now, if you ask me, is he better than some of these backups to be on a roster? Is he rosterable?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I could agree he's rosterable. I'd take a chance on him. Hey, I mean, if you said Mike McDaniel wants to bring Kaepernick in to roster him and give depth to quarterback, I'm not against that.
No.
I'm not sure what he offers, but to say, oh, he's going to come in as a starter, no.
He offers jersey sales.
Say again, I'm sorry.
Jersey sales are going to go through the roof for whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all the publicity and the distractions that come with it as well. Yeah. I'm with you too. I mean, if you're talking about getting on the roster as a backup or whatever, that's a different story. If you're talking me as a starter, there's no way, because the 2 years that they went to the year they went to the Super Bowl, his numbers weren't that impressive. I mean, he was a part of it, but he wasn't. But then when he got benched at the 1-10 season, he was already trending downwards. Even if, should he be in the NFL and somewhere? Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
For sure. But as a starter, hell no. Tua has more of a ceiling. Tua offers you more, flexibility and accuracy you talked about. But I don't think as a starter, I can't see any. I don't know what team I would actually put him on. I think it's just a popular thing to get clicks in regards of putting.
How the hell is
starter.
Jared Goff not mentioned there?
Yeah,
how was Mitch Trubisky not mentioned? I know they drafted a quarterback, but then so did the Panthers. So you don't even know if they have.
Mitch Trubisky hype right now is real, and that's the thing. When you don't play for a while, and we saw him in preseason last year, and he played against the Bears. Remember, and he sliced them up. He was slicing up the second stringers, and people forget like how how he struggled in Chicago, being away from the game, and people are like, oh yeah, Matt Nagy was a disaster, and they see like Justin Fields is not even as good as him. So people want to give him another chance. I don't see that going anywhere far. But obviously, we know Kaepernick isn't gonna reach any of the ceilings of the starting quarterbacks. I want to ask you guys this: do you think he can beat out Malik Willis for a job? Just because I think both athletic, both are gonna use their legs and play. What do you think?
For me, I wait. You're talking about Tannehill, Malik Willis? I'm sorry, I heard Mitch. You're talking about Tannehill right now.
Do you think Kaepernick could beat Malik Willis in the depth chart?
No.
That's weird because the guy. That's the thing. Like Malik Willis, he hasn't played a snap of NFL yet, but he's been playing against college competition, and then high school competition before that.
And that's the only reason why I say no. It's not a knock on Kaepernick. The fact is he hasn't really played any. His focus hasn't been on football. And hey, your focus, your thing is your thing, and all power to you. But your focus hasn't been on football. You haven't been on the field. And I don't know what your repetitions are. Like Brett brought up earlier, the last time he did anything, it was horrible. It wasn't appealing at all. And it's just the distraction that comes with it.
And they didn't really show who Kaepernick was. Like, that was the problem. Like, Kaepernick has never, ever been this drop back throw quarterback ever. And you got to think, right. And his base has always been narrow for a guy who has long legs. When he would widen his base and throw it, he could launch it. And it would be similar to how Joe Flacco's base was with that lengthy throw and release. But he had an arm where he could release at different arm angles. And it was always that side arm, which some people hated, but whatever, it worked for him. And he was always an athlete, but they never really the pro days were trying to make him this drop back passer, and his release is kind of awkward looking. The ball kind of angles down, and then it makes him look worse than he is. So that's what I'm saying. This workout, I hope he had a coach that actually said, that's not who you are. Let's show the NFL who you are and what you do well. And coaches would rather see you do all your positives. Then it's like, okay, I can or can't build around him. But then but it's risky. I think a team should take a chance. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to see the Ravens take a chance.
The Seahawks, I see. I mean,
Greg Roman, the backup Lamar Jackson. Could you imagine, like, if Lamar Jackson decides that screw this, I'm holding out for a contract. You got Kaepernick, or if he gets hurt, you got Kaepernick there. I'm just saying, and plus he's with Greg Roman again, who worked him. That's where Greg Roman really blew up and got his name, was everything he built around Kaepernick on that run.
So we all agree it should be in the NFL, just not with the Dolphins and not a starter.
Yeah, I wouldn't take him over Tua, and that's can't believe you're making me stick up for Tua today. What the hell, dude?
Hey, I know Evan's watching, so he is probably. I haven't seen him right, so he probably passed out from when he heard that.
I'm about to be memed.
Yeah,
what was that? Brett, you said you'd take Tua over Kaepernick. Come on now.
Yeah, what happened? What are you doing? Oh man! So
how far down can you get down that list before you're like, I'll take Kaepernick over that guy? I think you can get very, very far just because.
I think it goes up into the backup. That's when we start looking at.
Maybe Doug.
To be fair, it's just because he's been out of the league for so long, you don't know where he's at this point.
Would you take Kaepernick over Bridgewater?
No, I'm taking Bridgewater.
No, I'll take Bridgewater because I've seen him in this offense.
I've seen him recently. That's why I know he can
I
still
will
play.
tell you this, right? But I'll tell you this: is Mike McDaniel said, "Hey, I can build a package for Kaepernick, and I feel pretty confident in it. I might get a little jazzed for that. Not excited, but I might be like, okay, I'm intrigued. You got my interest there.
Maybe a goal package to rush in there or he could be the QB sneak guy for Tua.
Oh God. Just trying to find a way to get him in.
I'd be interested if he said that, but yeah, no, I straight up take it over Bridgewater. I know what Bridgewater can do in the system, and I've seen him recently do well in this system in New Orleans, or similar system, I should say. So, I don't know.
I mean, let's see how far more down I can go. Are you taking him over Mason Rudolph?
Who?
Mason Rudolph.
No, I no. I might take the 35 or whatever old Kaepernick over that. I mean, I'm pretty sure he still has some juice in his legs.
I think that's a good practice. I think that's a way to. You see, you have to go all the way to the backups to start considering. I mean, if you're being realistic, I know it's a popular take to say, "Man, this guy, he went to the Super Bowl with the team, and why is he not in the league? He should start over this guy and this guy and this guy." But be realistic. No, he shouldn't. As a backup, that's a different story. He should be on a roster. But as a starter, he was already getting benched in San Francisco. He would have been a bridge quarterback somewhere else if he actually stayed in the league. So,
have this discussion about 4 years ago, and we're having a little bit different angle here. There's some quarterbacks he could start over. There's some. You go back to like 2017 or 2018. You're saying, all right, he's only been out of the league for 2 years. There's some guys I think he could start over. I had a whole lot of discussions whether the Dolphins made the right choice with Jay Cutler and not getting Kaepernick and all that. So, I mean, that was more relevant then, and now it's just the older he gets, can he still be that same guy? Because what made him so good is also has to do with age too. You know what I mean? Like, he's so good with his legs, and you don't get faster. That doesn't mean he can't still run. Just
Well, it's a debate. It's a debate to have. Starting wise as a starter, it's a debate to have when he went before he left the league and he wasn't playing after 2016. 2017, maybe 2018, you're still having this conversation. 2022, right. 2023, it's like, no, this guy's not a starting caliber quarterback right now. There's no way. So, Juan, we move on here. We talked about Tua, what your thoughts of him coming, what your expectations are for him going into his third year. Off-season moves. We talked about Tyreek. I know you're very excited about that. Alec Ingold, Cedric Wilson, Armstead, the draft picks that we've gotten, Channing Tindall. Which move is the most exciting for you? What player do you think on this roster in general can make the biggest impact?
Well, obviously, I want to leave Tyreek Hill out, and I want to leave Teron Armstead out just because those are the obvious picks. One guy that I couldn't even get in my draft mocks was Channing Tindall, because I feel like something happened. And shout out to Nakobe Dean, by the way. Also, like, started out the Jaguars. I want to give a shout out to Nakobe Dean because during the draft, I went on a lot of websites to like try and do, because I'm like, why am I only getting project linebacker? And that's why you're getting that deep in the third, fourth round. You're pretty much getting project guys. So I was looking at Brandon Smith. I was looking at some other guys. I know that I forgot his name, but the guy from Oklahoma State. I really liked him. I feel like he could have like that defensive field general presence. Mm-hmm. But one guy I wanted Nakobe Dean if he fell, and Channing Tindall if he fell. Every time I saw Nakobe Dean and Channing Tindall go in the second round, Nakobe in the first, Channing in the second. So when we got the opportunity to get him in the third round, I was like, oh my God, because I had watched some highlights of him. I had watched some tape of him, but I go back and I'm like, I know why they drafted him. This is the guy that you get to run after Josh Allen. That is the guy. You only draft for that game. You draft him, and then you get Melvin Ingram. I like the defensive moves because Melvin Ingram, and I wrote about him too. People are like, oh, he's washed up. He's this, he's that. In the Steelers, the Steelers are loaded too on defensive end, but he was put to be one of the protagonists or one of the main guys. In the Chiefs, he had to be a protagonist. Here, you only put him in to the third down. 3rd and 15, Allen has to drop back to throw. Go ahead and put Melvin Ingram. You put Channing Tindall to chase after Allen if he tries to run. You got a solution there. And in the AFC, with all these young quarterbacks and all these guys want to run, and that was the kryptonite the last 2 years. We really liked the Dolphins' defense and how Flores had set it up, and Boyer had set it up, but that was the kryptonite. Anytime Lamar or Allen, Mahomes, one of these guys just wanted to start running on us, it like really tipped off the balance and it threw us off. So I would say Channing Tindall, and I know it was a bit of a rant, but I really feel like he's the guy that they brought him for a very specific role, which is a key role to have in your defense. Mm-hmm.
All right, let me ask you guys this. I think Miss Fins, that I could try to remember, she had a tweet, and if you guys don't follow Miss Fins, everyone who's watching, check out her YouTube channel, check out her Twitter page. Great content, great follow, Miss Fins. But she had some about the projected offense and defensive rankings, and I don't want to get them wrong. I think she said offense was 6 or something like that, or defense. I'm sorry, one of the two. But either way, so Brett, I'll start with you. Juan, you follow up. Right? What are you thinking when you look at these two the offensive defensive rosters? What are you thinking projection wise? Where do you have them? I think the defense was at 16th, was it last year?
Yeah.
Where do you have them ranked? Where do you think the rankings look like?
I think the rankings defensively will probably be about the same. I think they'll be a little bit more stout against the run this year, but probably a little step back in coverage. But that all depends on the pass rush and how good it could be. Melvin Ingram signing was great because that was the depth I talked about on shows prior, that we needed a proven pass rusher, depth at least, at minimum. I love Jalen Phillips and Van Ginkel, love those two, but I think we needed somebody else at the linebacker position. Plus, you got Oakball. Love the defensive line, how it's made up right now. I think defensively, I think it'll be better. Juan hit the nail on the head with Channing Tindall being an impact player. I think he can make a big difference. I worry about the safety position still a little bit. What's Brandon Jones going to do as a full-time starter? How's he going to do in coverage? See how that goes. So defensively, I think it's about the same, although I think scoring defense will probably be maybe take a step back. I'm not sure, but I don't think the score defense would be bad. I would still put the score defense top half of the league, maybe like top 13, 14. Offensively, I think we'll be right about the middle. I think our run game will probably rank near the top. I think they'll find a way to run the football. Then they're going to run that third. I think pass game will probably be where it's in the middle, and I think it's going to be an efficient pass game. If you look at San Francisco, their passing game is not near the top, but it's efficient and it does the job. But the run game is at the top. So I would probably say about average on both sides of the ball, right in the middle of the league for both. But I think they'll have aspects of each side of the ball that will rank near the top, though, which would be a major difference in my opinion. But to me, scoring offense and time of possession and scoring defense are going to be three major factors for me of how I grade the team overall.
Juan, what are you thinking projection-wise, rankings?
Projection-wise, I do think the defense takes a hit. I know the organization really tried to sell this, hey, this whole defense, Flores, he was just a small factor in it. It was all Boyer. Boyer's our guy. We'll see. But as of now, I believe Flores was a really big impact to that defense. I mean, he proved it when he was with the Patriots. It was just vicious. I do think the defense takes a hit, but I think the offense gets enough of a bump up to make up for it. How much will they make up for it? I don't know. I think they'll be as good as Tua is. If Tua can be a top 10 quarterback, we have a top 10 offense. But it wouldn't take Tua to be a top 10 quarterback to have a top 10 offense just because of how loaded this team is. You can get the running schemes if Edmonds and Mostert are healthy, you can go ahead and take advantage of the schemes, run to the left with Teron Armstead the whole way. Tyreek Hill off a screen, off a jet sweep, off a slant. You can put him in a lot of positions to pretty much break the playing field from balance. And I see them, top 10 to top 15. And I have high expectations for this team just because I feel that McDaniel knows that this team, he acknowledged it. He did an interview with Adam Schefter, and he acknowledged that, hey, fans have not seen this team win a playoff game for 22 years. What would that mean to them? So I feel like he's really wanting to come in here, rebrand what the Dolphins are all about, and probably make a nice impact for the team. I see them as a top 15 team in the end.
Okay.
I did a power ranking and I put them at 11 just because from 10 to 15, all those teams are really even, and you could mix and match however you want. But I do think we have a top 15 team.
So we're getting close to closing out the show. So let's finish up with this. Where do you have them? Well, you said 1-4 to start the year. What's their record in your projection right now as it sits?
I had them at 12-5, but I might be updating it to 11-6. Off the top of my head, I know I put it's a sweep. Buffalo sweeps us until proven otherwise.
Yes.
I don't care about the Heat, what they do. That's 2 losses right there. I see us losing to the Ravens, as I see us losing to the Bengals. I see us losing to the Chargers, and I had one more, but I'm gonna change it to 11-6 because I had us sweeping the Patriots again, but we were gonna play the Patriots in a late December game, and if you know those that weather in New England gets really nasty. Not even like trying to like take shots at like the Tennessee game that it rained there. You're talking about like full on hailstorms where no quarterback can throw the ball, and I mean maybe Josh Allen can throw the ball. But, you're not gonna if it's like a tropical storm out there and it's like it's snowing and raining at the same time, like come on, man, you're not gonna put it.
If there's a hurricane and somehow a snowstorm comes in, I can't expect the quarterback.
Like I don't know, to put it into an image. I don't know if you guys remember, it was a year or 2 years ago when Lamar Jackson went up to New England, and it was like a complete hailstorm as far as rain goes. And I forgot who ended up winning that game. I think Lamar pulled it off, but it was just who could pound the ball better and hit harder at the end of the day. So I'm gonna switch that to a loss. We won't.
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
it's realistic.
But keep in mind, I mean, running the football is how you win games like that, and that's one thing that I do hope McDaniel can install as a better run game, because that can change a lot of aspects.
And I don't think that just falls on Edmonds and those guys. I think you're looking at those receivers too, even the guy we drafted too.
Yeah, that's the receiver too. I don't think that with Edmonds and Mostert, I don't see it as those like guys that you can put anywhere, especially in those climates. For those climates, that's when you want the back that's the bigger back that can, it's gonna get you 2-3 yards down in the first.
A bell cow.
Yeah,
a bell cow
and it's because our guys they're elusive, they're fast, they're speedsters, but in a way, the Dolphins team, I like it and it looks loaded, but it's more a finesse team that is a physical team for now. I know the Shanahan way is to be really physical and dominate, be a power offense. But as it is built right now, I see it as more of a finesse team. And if they get punched in the mouth, I don't know how they respond.
We'll find out.
Yeah,
it's a wait and see, but it's a good point. So let's finish. Let's close out with that, or let's do this. Strongest spot in the roster, weakest position at the roster. Who's your strongest?
You go first, Brett.
Strongest is obviously offense. No.
Nah, come on, man. Come on.
Honestly,
man.
Strongest, I think you have to still put up a tie, I guess, between corner and wide receiver.
Okay.
Even I think corner and wide receiver are still strong, still good, because Nick Needham's pretty solid. We'll see about Noah. I mean, I know Sam Madison loves him. Would love to see him reclaimed into a good corner. But I think corner and receiver are probably the strongest. I still think offensive line is the weakest, and I'll still say linebacker. I'll just throw linebacker out there. It's been a question mark. Love Channing Tindall, but let's see. It's not been proven yet, so I'm still going to say linebacker for defense is the weakest point, and I'm going to say offensive line of offense is still the weakest point. Running back still bothers me, though. Good depth, but a lot of injury-prone guys.
I'll just say that what I was saying earlier, too, in regards to the running game and the running backs. It's not just the running backs. The Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Eric Tazima, those guys are being included in that running game. But I agree with Juan that we do need that bell cow back. In those type of weather games. Maybe Sony Michel can try to be that. I'm not sure. But what about you, Juan? What's the strongest part of the roster and your weakest?
For me, the strongest part of the roster is going to be the wide receiver position. I mean, you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson. Preston looks good. Hopefully, Preston's not doing the Jakeem Grant offseason. Maybe Bowden can be a piece. I feel like we're really deep at a high level at a wide receiver. As far as the weak point, I said it before, I'll say it again. The Achilles heel of this team is going to be Tua's blindside, the right tackle position. If Daniel has a plan, he better bet that it's going to work, because Armstead is premium tackle, but if Tua's still going to get blown up from the blind side, like, you know, people are gonna attack that weakness just because it's gonna be glaring compared to the left side. And then I just want to add one more. The biggest question mark of the year is gonna be Tua Tagovailoa, because I wouldn't have uncertainty of how good this offense is going to be if I had an answer on him. So he's the biggest question mark going into the season.
That's
and
fair.
I hope he proves us all wrong so we can go to Super Bowl.
That's right. I think wide receivers is the strength right now. I think corners is that close second. I agree with Brett on that. Linebackers is my weakness, and right tackle's a good one too. I will say with right tackle, because Ralph brought it up earlier in regards to undrafted free agents. You know, when you think of McKinley, I think that guy's going to he can make a roster spot. But you think of right tackle, don't sleep on Kennedy Beach. I think Robert Jones, Brett brought up a while back. But I think the thing that this is why, like, offensive line is still a question mark. You got center and right tackle. I think the difference, why I feel more comfortable about this offensive line than I did prior last year, obviously you got Terron Armstead and Connor Williams there now with this, is that the coaching staff. You know, Frank Smith was an OC offensive line coach who had a pretty damn good offensive line. Embry, as a tight ends coach, did great with Mike McDaniel. And, of course, Applebaum is probably the question mark with the coaching staff, but that, you know, it's a fresh voice, fresh look. So I feel more confident that they're going to get the right guys in there. What's up,
remember, Frank Smith also was an offensive line guy, too.
Yeah.
So Applebaum, there's a lot of checks and balances I talk about. So Applebaum kind of answers to Frank Smith or can lean on Frank Smith, too. So it's a lot going on there. And then and Frank Smith has Darrell Bevel to lean on for offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of leaning on. Yeah, and Mike McDaniel, obviously, the offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of domino effect that leads up and down. So yeah, Applebaum is a question, but at least there's checks and balances, unlike having Lim being just thrown at the wolves saying, hey, your first time offensive line coach, go get it. So
all right. So guys, this is overtime. We're going to close out with this one. Do the Heat win Game 6 against Boston?
We're going to go into Boston the same way we did 10 years ago when ESPN was putting highlights of LeBron James in a Cavaliers jersey and saying he wasn't good enough to be the number one player in a championship team. And as you know, the rest is history, baby.
Wow.
So,
all right. There you
that was a great team, too. Holy shit. Oh, my God.
Brett, you're a 76ers fan. So what are you thinking on the outside end, man? Do you think it's over? Do you think Boston's going to the finals?
That's not over.
Okay.
It's not over. It's going to go to Game 7. Miami's going to win that game. Eric Spoelstra is the best coach of basketball, in my opinion. I love him. He's one of the best in basketball.
Show some damn respect to Eric Spoelstra.
I can't. The bad part is, as a Sixers fan, I can't even hate the Heat because they're so damn well coached, man. Look at all the young undrafted players they have. Those shouldn't exist in basketball. You should have 1 or 2 in the league, and they got a roster full of them, and somehow they're always good. So, and they'll go to Game 7, I think.
I agree with you. I think if they go to Game 7, I think because it's been a one-off win lose. The Boston finally broke that, and then win. I think Miami's going to win this one. And if Miami wins, then all bets are off. So let's hope for
Butler's so damn good with the back against the wall too. So
that's true. He plays even though he's hurt. He plays tough with the back against the wall. Ralph, I will say this: no one's underestimating these new coaches. The reason why these question marks, I feel good about the offensive line, even though they have question marks at right tackle and center and quarterback or whatever. The reason why I feel confident about this is because of the coaching staff. The reason why I think this team could make the playoffs and win a game is because of the coaching staff. Nobody's underestimating the coaching staff.
Right.
So checkmate. All right, that's it. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Everyone, Steve, Chris, Ralph, everyone on above, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Finns Talk Network. You follow Brett at Brett Legassi 67. Follow Juan at 3rdnJuan. And you can follow me, Bobby Finns Talk. Juan is a contributor at Fin Fanatic. Yes. Definitely go to his page tomorrow. He will have the quarterback tiers. Is that right?
Yeah, quarterback tiers. We're going to see where Tua is ranking for this 2022 season, and let's hope that he can break into that elite tier this season, man.
Hey, and follow Juan now. All right? Get to know Juan now because he's going to blow up eventually. I'm telling you.
All right. Hey, there you go.
Thank you for having me on here. I really
Thank you for coming on, brother. Appreciate you. All right, guys. Fins up. We'll see you guys next week.
Fins up.